Hi there, I'm Gavin Crosby from Young Scot. I'm the local partnership development manager, working with all 32 Scottish local authorities to ensure they get the most for young people in their area.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Sarah Robertson and I work with Youthlink Scotland, so I'm a senior development officer there. I have a remit that looks at training. I have a remit that also looks at the Participative Democracy Certificate. If you can see it, you can do it. And we're going to be discussing that later on today as well.
So we wanted this to be live, but unfortunately we're having to record it. Hopefully it'll still be out on the same day. If you have a question during the video, or well, now that we're not live, you might wait to the end, but you can tweet us at Young Scot and use the hashtag PBFest18, and we will find that question and try and respond to you on Twitter, or you can email us and we'll have our email addresses at the end of the session.
And it gives us a bit more time to prepare.
A wee bit more time to prepare an answer. That's true, didn't think of that. So we're going to use this opportunity to talk about young people's involvement in participatory budgeting and a couple of specific opportunities that can support this and hopefully you might want to use. So it's great to be part of the Participatory Budgeting Festival this year. I've been looking online. I haven't actually managed to get to any events today or yesterday, but I did go to an event on Tuesday evening at the very first start of the festival. But I guess the first thing that we saw was the launch of the new charter for participatory budgeting. And Sarah, you've been picking some bits out of that?
Yeah, I was really interested certainly because it's the draft charter at the moment, so it has 7 guiding principles as well, which are meant to look at sort of the PB process. So it's really kind of good. I mean, the first one that they've looked at is inclusion, which is obviously right up our street as well, which I'm going to just look at a wee bit more in detail in a minute. But the second was about participation, and then they're looking at that the PB is centred on dialogue, so that people are actually listening to each other as well. So it's kind of that whole community approach, so no kind of sort of one view over another view. They're also looking at transformation, so that whatever will be happening, that there's huge transformation, that the project will bring innovation, that it's transparent and accountable, and also that it's sustainable as well. So I think certainly in terms of when we're talking about equalities, for young people that are actually, like sort of that are part of any equalities groups or that are intersectional as well, then sometimes their needs are even greater than some of the adults. Because obviously, if they might not have transport, they may also have less access to money. They might not have wages coming in. If they need to go to any events as well, then they may be more reliant on like a parent or a guardian or somebody else to bring them along to a specific event. So it's important to say that when we're talking about inclusion, then we're actually looking at even added sort of even more in place for young people to make sure that they engage certainly as well. So you also have maybe young people that might have struggle with confidence a bit as well, so need a bit more extra support to come along, or they might have need some mental health and well-being support as well. So I think it's important that on top of the kind of the inclusion and equalities, that they're actually taking that into account as well and removing those barriers.
I mean, of course, young people are not the only equalities group, but I think that, certainly from our experience, and we're focusing on that agenda today, but these things are really important. And of course, they're intersectional with any other equalities issue that would be in someone's life. If they're a young person and they're also from another equalities group, that's going to make that difference to them participating or not in democratic life, I suppose.
Which is quite nice, because it takes us, when we look at the second part, when it's about participation, and that's really about how do we involve the community in actually helping to organise PB events. And I think that's the crucial part, is actually involving young people in designing the PB sessions, and really, I mean, actually working with youth organisations, Jim, so working with your local youth organisations, working with your national organisations, working with your equalities groups as well, the ones that actually know and understand the people that they're supporting. So I think they obviously have good trusted relationships there, and they're the experts. Do you know what I mean? The organisations themselves, but the young people are the experts. So let's make sure that we are including them in that design.
Absolutely.
I think we're obviously really strong advocates, for young people involved in planning, and obviously this is the year of young people as well, which has opened so many sort of doors for other agencies to actually see the benefits of young people involved in kind of sort of co-designing and kind of planning events and things as well. So that's it's something obviously we've been doing for years, but the difference just now is that big drive, or that big enthusiasm from other sectors, and I think it's important to kind of build on this. And I think certainly with PB, this is such a huge opportunity, and young people, if you give young people a blank canvas, you'll be so amazed, you know what I mean, with what they actually produce, and things you would never, never have thought of ourselves.
I mean, I think so. I mean, the charter's there; it's in place. It feels like the time is now for this. I mean, youth workers have been doing participatory work with young people for a long time, and maybe PB will offer some sort of real, tangible change for the young people that have been involved. And there's been some great examples of projects over the years of young people, making policy change or contributing to policy change. But now that agenda with the 1% of budgets, it might really help young people feel that they are part of the community and included in that. But I guess there's still these caveats, as Sarah was talking about not being able to get there and not feeling comfortable when they do get there. Maybe the process that's set up is not very young people friendly, and I think that's what we would want to encourage as well.
Yeah, so what time is it on as well? If there's an event, is it when young people are at school? If it's straight after school, is there food provided? Because I know if I've had a whole day in the office and then I have to go to something else right after, I'm starving. I'm always starving, that's just me. But as well, I mean, I think, there's a lot of experts as well in, that have been doing kind of sort of grant making with young people as well. So I think, we've got, if you think about YOMO in Glasgow, and if you think about, I was at a really good event this morning. I was speaking to Lorraine Mullen, who is looking at a kind of a youth bank in Cowdenbeath as well, and just some of the actual energy that those young people are bringing to the table. We also have the cashback panels as well, which are predominantly, we've got a lot of young people that are part of those cashback panels. So it's important that we ask them, we include them within that as well. So
okay, excellent. So maybe we'll move on to some examples of how young people can get involved. We know that they want to be involved from years of experience of Youthlink and Young Scot and all those youth work agencies and schools around the country. We know that young people want to be part of these discussions. We know that young people at the moment maybe have an expectation that things are going to be digital, or at least digitally supported, and that's where Young Scot, I think, can really help with all of our, the information we have at young.scot and the online voting platform, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then we maybe need to think about, and I don't necessarily have the answer to this, but for all equalities groups that we want involved in PB, do we need a separate young persons PB? Because that's what we've been supporting quite a lot of that more recently, where a budget has been defined as being for young people. Or do we need maybe more to make the mainstream participatory budgeting system accessible to all these equality groups, or maybe a mixture? I do think it's fine to have a young person only PB exercise, but I'd also like to see more young people being invited and being able to contribute to the more mainstream PB for everyone.
I think in terms of that, Gavin, as well, I mean, it's a case of, some of there was a really good one last year that I noticed. I think it was actually on your website, on the Young Scot website, and it was actually looking at an event called Choose Youth Work in Edinburgh,
that's right,
do you know what I mean, which was absolutely fantastic. I think, it's so important that young people are involved in these decisions, but it's also young people are going to, sort of museums as well, they're going to libraries, they're going to sports centres, they're using public transport. So like you say, I think that mainstreaming element, it needs to still be there somehow. But
absolutely.
I mean,
a mixture of that. But I guess we would call you to think about that youth audience. And by youth, I guess just to clarify for those of you not familiar with the youth work terminology, I suppose we're really talking about 11 to 26-year-olds in that age. So rather than the younger children, quite often we would see parents maybe taking younger children to a PB event, a face-to-face event. So they tend to be there, those younger children. It's this 11, and teenagers in particular, and maybe they're not wanting to hang out with their parents, so maybe they don't go to those events, so then their voice is missing from any of those decisions. Okay, so just a couple of a quick plug for some Young Scot work, I suppose, here. Just a couple of things that we've been doing recently. We have a big co-design section here at Young Scot, and they do sort of participation work with young people on a range of topics. So we've been working with Scottish Government, SNH, on Reroute, which is around young people accessing biodiversity. We've been working with the Five Rights Foundation on young people and their digital rights, so rights online, all these kind of things. And I guess from the participatory budgeting point of view, what this shows is that young people are wanting to be involved right from the start, not necessarily just at the voting stage. And I'm going to show you the votes in a second, but they want to be involved right from the start of these processes and really shape the agenda rather than just being asked to sort of sign it off at the end. So, the voting system. I'm going to talk you through the Young Scot voting system. That's fine. Actually, sorry. Can we come back to me? Oh, sorry about that. Just to say that the Young Scot card, which looks a little bit like this, is given to 74% of all young people aged 11 to 26 in Scotland. Now, they might not all be carrying it every day, but they will all have had that card, and they should be able to find it again and access this number here. But I'll show you how the voting system works. So that card is the same kind of card as all older people get. You might be more familiar with that card to get access to free travel on the buses. So it has that smart chip embedded in it. In the future, we're designing a new app which will duplicate some of the card services that will become, and that will be on an app. And we hope that more of this kind of voting services would be smart. So already young people can use the smart card to access bus travel in some areas, to access cashless catering at school, to access leisure services in their area. And that's certainly not across all 32 authorities, but in quite a few authorities they can do that. And I guess we would hope that the voting platform becomes a bit smarter in the future. But it does work right now, and local authorities can use it. And we've just had a couple in Angus and Moray, and we're just about to do one in North Ayrshire in the next week or so. So hopefully you can see this screen now. This is what the platform looks like, and I've just set up this little test vote PB Fest right here. So this is at voting.youngscot.org. You can log in there now if you would like, and hopefully you won't be able to vote unless you have a Young Scot card. And in fact, in this particular test vote, it is set up for Angus, so you'd only be able to vote if you have a Young Scot card in Angus. But if you happen to be watching and you're a young person from Angus, have a go, have a vote, see if it works for you. So a young person would arrive at this site. Maybe they'd be helped by a teacher or a youth worker, but they'd arrive here. And if I can click on that, it's not letting me click. Why is it not letting me click? My Wi-Fi's gone off, that's why. Excuse me just a second. No, it says I'm connected. Oh, apologies. As you know, we had these problems with getting live, and it looks like our web server is being very, very slow. I'm going to refresh that and see what happens.
Gremlins in the
system today. Let's see.
It's not even after midnight.
No, here we are. We're in now. Okay, so the number that you saw on the card, I can just put into this little slot. So in this particular case, it's 633. You'll see it's got all those numbers coming up on the screen because those are ones that I've done previously. 1, 2, 3, 0, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5. Proceed to the vote. And it gives me this option. This is the constituency areas for this test vote. So if I go to the north area, in this case I've just used colours. So what we have is the candidate list here. These are randomised. So although B for blue is at the top there, you can see that the other ones are randomised. And that's something we would really support, particularly in PB when you have a long list of possible projects. I think it's nice to randomise the order. You've got some text in here that you can add a little summary of the project, but you can also click here and get a wee PDF kind of manifesto or project example there. So in this particular case, I could choose up to 3 votes, and these would be equal votes. So I'll just choose these top 3. Just to say, hopefully, young people who vote will be a little bit more considered than I'm being there when they actually vote. I submit my vote. It does a quick check. So if I'd have picked 4 at this stage or anything like that, it would tell me that I needed to go and change it, but I can still go back and change my vote using that button there. I confirm the vote, and I get a little green line. Your vote has been cast, and that's it done. And once that's done, in the background, just come back to me there. Yeah, once that's done, in the background, you'll be able to see the votes straight away. I'd be able to see that. I did that in the Moray vote just recently. That closed at 6 o'clock, and at 1 minute past 6 I was on the phone just giving them results out live, which again is going to save an awful lot of time with having to count. And if your vote is over a long period of time, sometimes a couple of weeks or more, that's really going to save staff energies in having to count those votes. And also that particular vote in Moray finished with a kind of live event where people were coming in, getting issued with a temporary number, which we can also do at that stage, voting, and they were still there when the vote was announced, which is really nice. So actually that sort of blending thing of still having that event where people are talking face to face, maybe hearing some live information from the different projects, but still using the online vote on their phone or on an iPad from the organisation or on a desktop or whatever they want, however they want to vote, but getting that result absolutely live. And we're able to keep track of that. I won't show you the back end of that because there's some other votes on there that are you know, some live votes that you wouldn't really want to. I wouldn't really want to show you the back end of other people's live votes. But I can see, for example, on there the IP address, the timestamp, and the number that was used to vote. So we would see voter irregularities if loads of people voted from the same computer at the same time for the same project. We would start asking questions, and then that isn't necessarily a bad thing. That does happen with young people, and last time that happened again at that project up in Moray, I was able to phone them up and say, oh, this looks a bit weird, but it turned out that was just the time that group were in, and so the worker had encouraged them all to vote. And although maybe we'd want them to be a bit more diverse in their voting, that is democracy, and they were able to sort of hustle a few votes out of young people at that stage. So that's the Young Scot online voting platform. It's a shame you're not live to ask questions, but please get in touch and ask any questions about that. I'd be very happy. Local authorities have that included as part of their relationship with Young Scot, so there's no additional charge to local authorities who contribute to Young Scot already. Voluntary sector agencies would be happy to work with you, and it might be that you could work with a local authority in any case and use their kind of allowance to make that work for you. So we're going to move on, I think, to Sarah's thing. Sarah's got some slides for you.
Yeah,
Will I pull them up straight away? Yeah, I'll put them up straight away.
Fantastic.
Just give me a second. There we go. Oh, when it's ready, there we go.
Thank you, that's great, Gavin. Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Participative Democracy Certificate. As I say, it's a bit of a mouthful to say, but it's definitely worth it in the end. You can refer to it as PDC for short. When I was up in Orkney, I did some training around the PDC, and I didn't actually realise that PD means small in Orkney. Yeah, so and they have a sea, a little island, and a kind of sort of bit of the sea, and they actually called that the PDC. So there's quite a lot of confusion there. Anyway, that's a slight tangent. Okay, so the award itself, it is a youth work award, so it's for the youth work sector. So although we say that it's something that could be done in schools, it needs to actually have somebody that's from the youth work sector that's delivering it, or that has community learning and development background as well. So it's about that kind of sort of person-centred approach and starting where young people are at and making sure that young people are fully informed and fully involved in the project itself. So the PDC is part of the awards network as well. So although we say that this is one type of youth work award, there are many other youth work awards out there as well. So whether you're doing this, or whether you're doing Duke of Edinburgh or John Muir or Saltire Awards, etc., I think it's really important that when you're doing your PB processes, that you're actually thinking about other ways to sort of recognise what young people are actually achieving and what their inputs are. So I would advise you to go and have a wee look at the awards network as well for some other opportunities and other things there. So the PDC is about young people that are involved in decision making groups. It's worth 2 credits, so that's 20 hours of learning at SEQF level 5 as well. So there does have to be work behind it as well. Young people really do need to put some work into it, but it is really achievable as well, because we don't want young people to fail at this. So we want to give them as much support as we can to make sure that they get through. So if there's things that need sort of extra support or extra tweaking, then it comes to me to moderate, and then I will then go back with recommendations so they can actually resubmit. So there's no sort of deadline for getting your portfolios in or not. So who needs to deliver it? So we need a youth worker. We also need an assessor as well. So that's somebody that has an awareness of other youth awards or SQA or SEQF as well, that can actually tell the difference between if a young person's managing to meet an outcome or not. And it also needs an internal moderator who can just go through the portfolio before it comes to me to check that everything's there. It's moderated by Youthlink Scotland, so we are the external moderator. And Fife College is the SCQF credit rating body, so they kind of check that I'm doing my job, if you like, as well. So it's fully endorsed. Okay, so the features of the award. Well, what we ask for a portfolio to be submitted. The main features of it is that it's flexible, so it is based around what you're already doing with your young people. It's learner-led and it's learner-centred, so it's focused around them. The youth work it's basically it enhances the youth work process, but it doesn't necessarily lead it as well. So it just kind of builds on, as I say, what's already there. And young people are at the heart of the decision making process. There's no time constraints. So as I say, so if you started the PDC in March, but you didn't actually finish it for another 2 years, although I wouldn't recommend that, because as I say, young people maybe move on or things as well, or staff change, quite maybe frequently as well. But there is no time constraints. If a young person decides to leave and then come back, then they can pick it up where they left off. And it allows young people to reflect on practice and also assist with their own evaluation. Okay, so what is it then? So how do we look at kind of these hours? So the young person would do 4 hours of research, and that is undertaken by the young person themselves. So it might be that they're looking at what events are already taking place in their area. It might be that they're thinking about how could we invite other young people to come to an event. It might be who do we want as guest speakers, what other organisations, is there going to be catering involved, what catering do we need, do we want. So they would decide themselves what their research is on. They then present their findings as part of kind of a presentation. Now it could be to the group leaders, or it could be other members of the PB group. It could be that it's for their peers as well. It could be teachers, etc., etc. It could be a whole host of people. One person would actually assess them doing that. So, and the assessment, it sounds scary. So when you say the word assessment, you go, ooh, it's not as scary as it sounds. It's just really, did they manage to engage with their audience? Were they well prepared? Had they done their research? It's nothing too frightening. They then would do 6 hours of training. Now again, we're not fussed what comes first. The training might come first, the research might come first. There's no, it doesn't need to be the research, training, decision making, and then reflection. Well, the reflection obviously hopefully comes last, but you're still reflecting throughout as well, you see. So the 6 hours of training is on specific skills. Now that's training that you might already be doing or hopefully doing with your group. Okay, so it might be things like, if you're setting sort of ground rules within the organisation, it might be that you're looking at communication, decision making, how do they work with others, how do they negotiate as well, how do they come to a decision at the end. They would then be 8 hours of recorded decision making. So that's where, if they were having meetings with others, how they come into decisions at the very end of that. It could be, if you think about it, sometimes we're doing residential weekends. You could essentially do your PDC as part of a full weekend, or it could be that it's over a couple of evenings for a couple of months. At the end, as I say, young people would do their self-reflection. So what did they get from the whole process? Okay, so as I mentioned, assessment there. So the assessment, as I say, it comes in different formats, because this isn't, we're not testing young people. It's really going down to the staff. Now it's not, we're talking like sort of one sheet, if you like, so that that staff would fill in for each young person, saying about how they got on with their presentation, research findings, how did they interact with the rest of the group as well. So when they were in the decision making groups, how did they interact? And then a support worker's observation report. So how did they get on from start to finish? Did they improve? Are there things that they might still need to work on? But that would be with negotiation with the young people. The portfolio contents checklist as well, that just really lets them know that everything they need is within there, and diary sheets and timesheets showing that they've done the 20 hours. Now, if they want to do the portfolio itself, now we've said it here, the portfolio, these are the things we want covered within a portfolio. I'm not going to read through absolutely all of these, because I'm sure you can see them up on your screen hopefully as well. Some portfolios might actually come in paper format, but we're quite happy to receive it if it's a digital format as well, or if people want to submit videos, or if they want to do blogs, that is completely fine. We're really open. We did actually have one dance interpretation as well, which was quite difficult.
Wow.
But I managed to speak to the young people thereafter to see kind of sort of where the links were. But it was fantastic, and as I say, that was really different. So that was part of the Young Women project.
Well, I think that's young people setting the agenda, isn't it? If they want to dance,
it was
then they're going to
incredible.
dance.
It was honestly, it was really, really incredible. So that was from Shaper Caper that produced that one as part of the Young Women project. So that was their presentation. Okay, so if you're embedding it within your PDC program, okay, so what do you need to consider? Well, you need to consider your learners. Okay, what are their needs? You need to think about how your group are going to be meeting. Now again, discuss that with your young people. What's going to suit them. Your time frame. So again, it's 20 hours. So how are you going to actually get there from start to finish and do the whole 20 hours? your resources. What do you need to make this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as I say, young people, you're still going to make sure young people are able to get there. If there's transport costs, try to remove these barriers. Think about accessibility and everything of your groups. Training resources, okay, so and training outcomes. It's a national. Is it going to be national training? Is there something else you can actually link in with, or is it something that you're going to be delivering at a local scale? Can you be using your other youth work sectors and partners to do some of that? And how will you internally moderate the PDC? Could you call in or ask for help from a local teacher or a lecturer or somebody else from community learning and development or a youth worker with experience?
Good.
And that's kind of that with that one. I'm going to go back to
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's okay.
Yeah,
no,
we're
good. Well, you've seen the contact details, but I guess that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. Just a quick half an hour today. That's great. It's occurred to me while you're talking. Sorry, I'm going to spring this on you. But if you had like a mixed group, you had maybe some young people, perhaps they're working with their parents or some adults. Could the adults do the PDC at the same time?
There's no age restriction for the PDC.
Great.
What we do say is that it is primarily aimed at young people, because it's a youth work award.
Sure.
But certainly, if you had a kind of need to do that, we have put some youth workers through the process as well, so that they actually are able to deliver it a bit better with their groups.
Yeah, good.
That's fine as well. And you might actually have some adults that are maybe they're struggling to get other qualifications. Yeah. So again, but there's got to be sort of kind of quite a good argument, if you like, for it. So come back to me. Do you know what I mean? And we can kind of sort of negotiate.
Well, maybe that's a way. Maybe as we were talking about getting young people involved in the more mainstream things, to maybe get some of those adults to do it on. I'm sure the adults could learn some stuff as well in that. So great.
I suppose just to say that we're talking about kind of sort of recognition and awards. That is something that we're both looking at as well. Is how is PB recognised nationally? So we're doing quite a big piece of work, which is actually what brought us together in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is actually how working with Fife College, working with SCDC, also with Scottish Government, and we're working with COSLA, etc., and quite a few other partners, being one of them as well. That how do we actually recognise PB if people want to get qualifications from it? So we're kind of exploring different options just now, in the hope that we will be able to sort of come together maybe with looking at like an online sort of modular online course. That's not to say that I think we've got to make sure we're not getting confused that people don't need to have something like that to be able to take part in PB. But it might be for some people that are maybe struggling to get other qualifications as well. This might be another opportunity, or if they want to enhance their own skills or kind of look at the ethics, if you like, of PB, then it might be something. Yeah, absolutely. To look at there. So.
Well, I think that's just about what we wanted to talk about. I guess loads of development happening around PB. Young Scot and Youthlink Scotland kind of want to be part of that. We are part of it. The vote is one aspect of it and very important, and we can certainly show the scale of those votes with online voting. But I think that the PDC and the other work that Young Scot do acknowledges that it's not just that end process. It's the whole process, and young people I think are very, very keen to be involved right from the start. So perhaps setting the agenda for the PB rather than just contributing to the voting at the end of it. So I'll put this up again just so you know. I'm sure you've seen the PB Fest hashtag, but you can contact us at Young Scot. You've also got there's a Youthlink.
We have a conference coming up.
Yes.
Can I just do a plug? Is that okay?
Plug.
Yeah. So we have our National Youth Work Conference as well on the 20th of November. And that is actually this year, the theme is youth participation. So again, like we were saying at the very, very start, come and speak to us. Do you know what I mean? Come and speak to the youth work sector. Come and speak to your scout groups, your Girl Guides, your everything. Everybody that's out there is there to help as well, and they have an understanding of working with young people. Speak to your equalities groups. Speak to national agencies like Young Scot, like Youthlink Scotland, like Youth Scotland. There's loads of us. But so speak to us, and we're more than happy to help. But yes, there are still spaces for the youth conference.
We have a brand new leaflet on PB, our voting platform, particularly for local authorities, but also for the voluntary sector. If you're interested, just get in touch. I can email you a PDF, or you can get a nice, that's not glossy in fact, but it's a nice fold out for you if you're interested. We will be posting this hopefully in around about half an hour's time or so, and if you have a question, we might even get to it today, but we're always there. We can answer questions as we get on. So once again, I can only apologise we weren't able to get this live. But thanks to my colleagues, the other Gavin in Young Scot and Joe for helping us set up today. Thanks for Jim for lending us his office. But I think that'll do from us for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.